Hello and welcome to my channel again. Today I shall be reviewing The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. So if you are a fan of mystery, chances are you've heard of Hercule Poirot, Christie's detective who appears in about 33 of her novels. This is once again a Poirot mystery. Usually his cases are presented in the form of memoirs by his friend one Mr. Inspector Hastings. This story is also a set of memoirs, however they are from one Mr. Dr. Shepherd. The reason is it's a case Poirot picks up after he retires. The story is set in this little English village called King's Abbot, where Ackroyd is a very wealthy individual. Dr. Shepherd, who is a local physician, is Ackroyd's close friend, and one day he receives a call from his friend to discuss the death of a woman. So there is a woman who takes her life in the village called Mrs. Forrest. So Ackroyd and Mrs. Forrest were in love, and one day she ends up killing herself and sends a note to Ackroyd in which she mentions that she was being threatened by someone for something that she did, and Ackroyd calls Shepherd to discuss it. So Shepherd goes to Fernley Park, which is this big colonial mansion that Ackroyd lives in. They have a chat and then Shepherd leaves. But once he goes home, he receives a call from Parker, who is Ackroyd's butler, informing him that Ackroyd has been killed in his study. So Shepherd rushes back, but Parker is unaware of any such calls. However, they do end up going to his study to check and find that Ackroyd has indeed been murdered, and that is where the mystery starts. So immediately after his death, his stepson Ralph is missing. So he goes missing, and he also happens to inherit the most out of Ackroyd's will, and he has a bunch of debts throughout the village. So the police immediately suspect him to be the murderer, and there's also a set of footprints outside Ackroyd's study which match one of Ralph's shoes. So that's where the mystery starts. However, Ackroyd's niece, Flora, who is engaged to Ralph, believes that he is innocent, and she ends up hiring Poirot to look into the matter and to actually prove Ralph's innocence. And that is how Poirot gets involved in the case, and Shepherd ends up following Poirot throughout his investigations and records the mystery or the story as it progresses as his memoir. And that's how the book is presented. So what I loved about the book was that it starts off by giving us a very clear suspect, and every other character in the book has a clear alibi at the time of the death, and the police are firmly convinced that no one else could have committed the murder. However, as Poirot begins to investigate, he discovers all these secrets that these characters hold, and he discovers that not everyone may necessarily be telling the truth. Every single person has something to hide, which comes uncovered as the story progresses, but that doesn't necessarily make them the killer as well, which is also what I found to be interesting about the story. However, by the end of the book, it's all tied up very well, and the killer is someone you would never have guessed being a reader. The other thing that I loved about the book was that the story is set in this English village where everyone knows everyone else, and the pacing of life is very slow and very different from a city, for example, and that was very refreshing. So people get together from time to time for these game nights. They have a cup of tea, they have a piece of cake, they play these games, and they discuss about the happenings around the city, and everyone cares for everyone else, knows about everyone else. It's a very small world, and a very different world, which was like I said, refreshing. But what I loved about everything else about this book was the ending. Never in a million years would I have guessed who murdered Roger Ackroyd. It completely blew me away. Never saw it coming, not with all the hints in the book, not with all the clues. Never would have seen it coming, and it actually ties in everything together in this nice little bow, which was amazing. So the element of surprise was so absolutely perfect, and I felt that that is the premise of a good mystery, any mystery, and in that manner I felt this book stands head and shoulders above any other Christie book mysteries that I've read. I would go so far as to say that. So if I have to think of any drawbacks at all, no major setbacks. The plot is beautiful, the story is ties up together very well at the end. If there's one thing I would have loved to have seen more in the book, though, is that in the beginning we get introduced to Caroline, who is the sister of Dr. Shepherd, and she correctly guesses a few elements of the plot, as she's very perceptive, she's very intelligent, almost like Poirot himself. However, throughout the course of the book, she doesn't end up participating all that much in the investigation, which I would have loved to see more of her. She was such an interesting character. So yeah. And if I have to rate the book, it would be a 4.5 stars out of 5. And that is my review of The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Thank you.